Hi, my name is Paul Greenberg. I'm a language enthusiast from Toronto on an amazing journey with Anishinaabemowin.
Hi, I'm Isadore Toulouse, also known as Niswe Andeguk in my Anishinaabe name, which means three crows. And I am a specialist in Anishinaabemowin for the last 40 years.
We decided to create Paul and Isadore Living Anishinaabemowin to share our ongoing dialogue about and in the language with you all. We release episodes regularly and we hope that you enjoy watching it as much as we enjoy making it. If you think that what we are doing is worthwhile and should be seen by others, please hit the like button below. That's how we get seen. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the exciting things we have in store, please be sure to subscribe below. Make sure to turn notifications on so that you will know when we upload a new episode. Kachimikwech. Hello, welcome to Paul and Isadore Living Anishinaabemowin. Ani Isadore.
Ani Paul.
Anishinagege.
Apchugonishin Gindash.
Nishin Gogeni. Miigwech.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see you, Isadore. It feels like it's been a little while.
It certainly has.
We've got a bunch of really exciting things to talk about today, very interesting and actually a bit heavy topics as well. So we'll be talking about silent speakers. We have a really cool video from Bev, which we'll look at. And then we're going to talk about Anishinaabemowin around home. Mm-hmm. Now, before we start and dive into it, I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on our subscriber count. So do you remember how many we had the last time?
160 or something?
Yeah, it's around 160. So we're over 180 now.
Ooh.
And what I'm really, really hoping is we can get to 200. So if you are watching and you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. If you know someone who would like to subscribe and you think would be interested in knowing what we're up to, please let them know about it. It means a big deal for us, and it makes a big difference and helps us get seen by other people. So let's start. I'm going to start by asking you a question, Isadore.
Mm-hmm.
You, I believe, last Sunday participated in a silent speaker event,
right?
So what was that all about?
The silent speaker event that took place last Sunday was organized by Christy Belcourt and Anishinaabemowin Teg. And I was selected, or I was asked to be one of the moderators for the breakout rooms and to do a workshop on humor, laughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple of slides ready to do that. So the whole idea behind these silent speakers was just to talk about the resurgence of knowing that they're out there and how can we help them come to the forefront to speak the language. What are the dynamics that kept them being silent speakers?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those types of things we brought up in the different workshops that different breakout rooms that took place. People just talked about the different scenarios that happened to them as children, as speakers of the language, as church happenings with the church, happening with the education system, happening within their home communities.
Mm-hmm.
So those various traumatic events that took place kept them where they're at to not speak the language. They can understand fluently. They can understand everything that someone is saying, but they won't speak it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so was the audience for this event mainly silent speakers, or was it kind of a range of people? Or
it was a range of people. There was about 150 participants, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, it was a range of people.
Okay, interesting. So what I thought we could do is dig into this a little bit. As I mentioned to you before we started, I only first heard the term silent speaker maybe a month ago. Didn't even know anything about it, why it exists, how it exists. So we've put together some information for anyone who's watching this who may want to have a better understanding of what silent speaking or what a silent speaker is, who they are, how they got that way,
Great.
and then also what sort of opportunities there might be going forward. So let's dig into this. So the first thing, kind of key question is who is a silent speaker, or what is a silent speaker? And you've already laid this out, but to give a little more detail, as you said, someone who has a good understanding, and I think you mentioned often can understand everything, but they won't speak it. The words won't come out.
Mhm.
And the thing I think, when I first heard about it, the initial impression I got was it's someone who chooses not to speak, but they can. But it seems like can sometimes run deeper than that. It's almost
It could also be that.
okay. Well, so related to that, we have, who are some of these people? So one example could be someone who's maybe moved away from the community for some time and just don't feel comfortable now that they've moved back, which I think is what you're talking about now.
Mhm.
We have people, as we've talked about in the past, there's different dialects, whether it's, at the level of like Ojibway, Cree, Potawatomi, Odawa, but even within those, sometimes there's differences between communities, and maybe people feel a little bit shy or uncomfortable if they're surrounded by people who speak a different dialect.
Right.
People who just haven't had anyone to talk with, so they just haven't been able to use the language, and maybe it doesn't come out naturally. So these are all ones where maybe it's a bit of a choice. But then there's also people who do it as a result of trauma, right? So, for instance, people who might be a residential school survivor who spoke it before they went to the school, but were traumatized at the school. And that can be sometimes a hurdle to get over.
Mhm.
And one of the things, I don't want to go sort of super dark, but I do think it's important for people to understand what this means when we talk about being traumatized at school. And so I thought I would just share. I mean, I'm just, becoming acquainted with all of this and starting to understand it. So there's without question people who know way more about this than I do. But as I've been on this journey, I've encountered a lot of people who've talked about stories and experiences. And so I thought I'd just share three things that really made an impression on me when I heard them. So the first is I heard from Bev's sister, actually, Martina, who was talking about this recently and saying that she has recollections of being on the reservation and priests, I guess, and nuns going door to door, knocking on the door and telling families, don't speak Anishinaabemowin in the home. Don't use it with your kids, as a directive.
Mhm.
So that, I can imagine if you're a kid and you see this, you experience that, and you think, okay, these people who are held in high esteem in the community coming and telling you that this language that's in your body is wrong, it's bad, you associate a sense of shame with it, which is just insane, and it's crazy, but it's a fact. It's something that happened. The more extreme things that I've heard is, we talked about this in one of our previous episodes of, I've heard from more than one person saying that they were at a residential school and either they experienced this directly or they saw other people who, if they uttered a word of Anishinaabemowin, maybe amongst their friends, who this is what they grew up speaking with each other, they would stick a needle in the tongue.
Mhm.
And so you start to associate that physical pain with the language, which is a very extreme sort of trauma. And then this one, I want to say, is a very difficult one for me to mention. And when I first heard it, it was shocking. It gave me chills. But I think it's important for people who are watching us to hear this. I don't want to mention the name, but there was a woman who I met in Wikwemkong who was in a group talking about residential school experiences. And she was talking about how she probably, if I recall, was around maybe 7, 8 years old. And she had an older sister who maybe was 1 or 2 years older than her. So they were both kind of elementary school age. And she described a situation where she almost accidentally uttered an Anishinaabemowin word, and one of the nuns heard that, turned around, and asked who spoke it. And her older sister raised her hand and basically said it was her, even though it was her younger sister, and she did it to protect her younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so her younger sister saw her older sister, who, again, under the age of 12, easily, maybe 9, 10, 11, something like that, taken by two nuns into a room. They closed the door, and the woman who was telling the story said that she heard her sister let out this blood-curdling scream that wouldn't stop behind the closed door. And she said that to this day, she still doesn't know what they were doing to her sister, but it was that traumatic for her. So this is the type of thing I think it's important to articulate these stories, because when you just use the word trauma too many times, it starts to become abstract. You don't really know what it is we're actually really talking about,
Right.
and what it is that might actually cause someone to feel, apprehension about, or even difficulty of relating to the language. So talking a little bit about residential schools. So this was in the news a lot in the summer. I will say I'm kind of surprised at how much it seems to have fallen off the radar. And it's, when I was preparing for this, a lot of the articles I was searching for would be sort of June, July, August, a couple September, but not much beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important that we keep this front and center. So just by the numbers, it's 139 residential schools in Canada, which is a big number. And particularly when we start to consider some of the things that happened at these schools, the scale of it, that's a big number. The other thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that the time extent of this. So it was first, the idea of a residential school was first conceived by the Anglican Church in the 1830s in Brantford, Ontario. So this is long before 1867, the Confederation of Canada. And the last school, and this is the one that always shocks me, was closed in 1997 in Rankin Inlet. So, for a big part of my life, I was going about my daily life here in Toronto with zero idea that these things existed, and they were just being run, all the way through, in this case, my late 20s, which is shocking. So this is 167 years of systematic approach to this. A total of more than 150,000 First Nation, Inuit, and Métis children between 4, which is crazy again when you think about it, that age, up to 16, were required to attend the schools, often by force. And then this is something we'll talk about in a bit around accountability, but it's estimated based on information and research that about 5,000 people, 5,000 individuals committed sex crimes at residential schools during the system's existence, and fewer than 50 have been convicted. So there's a lot of people still out there today who are part of the system who are going unaccountable. That's something we should also talk about, understand, and focus on. But that's just the sex crime specifically. But if you include stuff that I was just talking about, which would fall under physical, psychological, emotional abuse, it's way more than that, of course. And then we know that somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 deaths have been confirmed so far. It's hard to get a clear number on this just because of the way that it's being tracked, or frankly not being tracked. But it's a big number. And in an article in the CBC in September, there was a quote from Raymond Frogner, who is the head of Art Cause for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation in Winnipeg, where he said he anticipates the number of children on the death register will increase by at least 5-fold. Now, what's interesting is 5-fold, that gets you into sort of the 20, 25, 30,000 range. And if you look at the number of schools, 139, and you just multiply by sort of 1 to 200, which is around the number that was at that first, or the 215 was at that first school, that gets you that number. But we've already seen schools that have substantially more than 215. So probably is even higher than 5-fold. And I guess that's right, at least. So for context, like, where did this thing come from? This is something that I wondered, and I came across this quote, which I can tell you was not in the history textbooks when I was in high school, when we learned about John A. Macdonald. But I think it's useful context. And I'm actually going to read the whole thing out because I think word for word, to understand the savagery and the mentality and the almost insanity or pathology of this, it's important to hear these words. So I'm just going to read this. He said, when the school is on the reserve, the child lives with its parents, who are savages. And though he may learn to read and write, his habits and training mode of thought are Indian. He is simply a savage who can read and write. It has been strongly impressed upon myself as head of the department that Indian children should be withdrawn as much as possible from the parental influence, and the only way to do that would be to put them in central training industrial schools where they will acquire the habits and modes of thought of white men. So I think we should just sort of sit with that quote for a moment to understand that this is representative of an entire system of thought. So this wasn't just a few bad apples. It wasn't just a few things gone wrong. This is the heart of the whole issue. The first prime minister of the country was propagating this idea and this thought, which spread through everything. And to give a visual on that, this is a map that depicts the 139 schools, those dots all over the country, where if we pick up on the quote we just heard, it was policy to move these schools off the reserve, which, by the way, it was illegal for people living on the reserve to leave the reserve. So once you take their children off the reserve to a residential school, there's no way they can go and see their children, of course, or go get them back. And so I think this visual is really useful to see. And from the color coding, what's interesting, and this is something that really is a bit shocking and frustrating to me, is that the dark dots are where searches for the graves have been completed. There's a very few of those, as you can see. The yellow dots is where there are planned or in progress searches. But the vast majority of these, there's no intention whatsoever to go search for graves. That's a travesty, and I think it needs to change. And I don't understand, again, why this has fallen off the radar, why people don't seem to be talking about this anymore. But this is genocide. Like, there's just no other way to describe it. And we've got to face it, in my view. So, by the way, I've just been talking through this, and I'll also say that when I start to get emotional, I tend to just talk. So I don't want to monopolize this, but if there's anything you wanted to say at this point, please, of course.
Well, no, that's you're exactly hitting the nail exactly the way it should be addressed, because my English is terrible. My wording that I cannot word or articulate the various wording that you're able to articulate in this fashion. And my thing is, where was the mindset of these people that did these things? I mean, it's just the inhumanity, the genocide that you talked about. It's just, it continues today. It happens today.
It absolutely does. And I think it's an easy cop-out. And I'll tell you the way that things were framed when I was in school. It's an easy cop-out just to say, well, back in the day, people were that way, and it's no longer that way. But if you dig into history, there are people at any point in history who were equally as inhumane as these people were. There were people who were equally humane. So it's not that this is just a matter of time or time period. Mm-hmm. This was savagery. This was sociopathy. End of story. Right. By any measure. And I agree with you that it's not something we just look at the past. I mean, not to kind of get too dark in this, but I recently, in the past couple of weeks, have come across this term that I didn't know existed before, which is, what's it called? Starlight cruise or something like that? Or Starlight, do you know what I'm talking about? A Starlight journey. In any case, it's basically where... I think this happens in Western Canada, or maybe it also happens around here, where police will take Indigenous men in the middle of the winter drive them way outside the town and force them to walk back kilometers in the cold,
Mhm.
where they often will freeze to death. And
Mhm.
this happens now. Like, it's not like it's some historical thing.
Yeah.
So, this is something we have to face and not pretend that it doesn't exist. Just going forward, one of the things is maybe on that topic is that residential schools is a specific piece of the puzzle, but there is a broader systemic and systematic cleansing that's been going on. So it is documented that there have been, up until as recently as 2019, so basically now, forced sterilizations of thousands of Indigenous women. There also, we talked about the 139 residential schools. There's also were 699 federally run Indian day schools, which are operated by the Anglican and Catholic churches, attended by 200,000 Indigenous children, which also had similar systematic abuse.
Mhm.
There's, of course, the 60s Scoop, which took about 20,000 Indigenous children from their families by force. And maybe, I don't know if this is something you're familiar with, but at least my understanding is you would have sometimes kids taken from a field, with the parents not even knowing, and put into foster care or adoption to white middle-class families who were actually paid. They were paid money to take these kids.
Right.
So before I go any further, anything on these points that you want to mention around either the sterilization,
Well,
the Indian day schools, or other?
many times, a lot of these children were sent overseas also to
I did not know that.
Europe, to Australia, to various. Yeah, they were shipped all around the world.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and then there's reconciliation efforts right now for the Indian day schools that most of the Canadian Native people can apply for funds uh, to get back money
Mm-hmm.
for the abuse that took place. So many people have applied for that funding or for that grant, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them just applied for the most minimal amount, $10,000.
Yeah.
We should be applying for the 100,000 or 200,000.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is here, I mean, the reality is that type of abuse and trauma is with you for the rest of your life. So
Yes.
honestly speaking, no amount of money, I don't care how many zeros come after it, is going to compensate for that experience. That's
Mhm,
one
mhm.
thing we should just sort of put on the table. And the second thing is absolutely, there should be whatever the maximum amount available is should be provided without question.
Right.
Um,
I mean, there's things that happened to me, traumatic things that happened to me that I would prefer not to talk about. But there's times that I'm just petrified of the dark.
mhm.
There's times that I have nightmares and I will wake up screaming and saying in the language, Boni question, meaning leave me alone, leave me alone. And I can attest to that because my sister, we've stayed in hotel rooms where she is sleeping in the other bed and she doesn't know what to do. She says, and she tells me, this is what you said, Boni question, leave me alone. You're just in bed screaming as a 59, 60-year-old. This just happened recently, but these things continue to perpetuate. I mean that'll be a traumatic experience for me.
Mhm.
And one of the other things that I don't remember my life from grade 1 to grade 5, 5 years of my life, I don't remember anything. I don't remember my childhood for those 5 years. Something happened that I'm afraid to find out what that
Mhm.
traumatic experience was. So
And you were at a day school, right?
I was at a day school, yes. Yeah.
On in Wikwemkong.
In Wikwemkong. Right.
Yeah, well, your story is by no means unique, and that's the real tragedy of this. So, I mean, just to look at some of the numbers to kind of summarize what we just talked about. So, we're saying 150,000 children in residential schools. Just by the official data, and I would hazard a guess it's probably more than this.
Oh, I would
By-
say more, yes.
But by the official data, 1 in 3 sexually abused, many more physically and psychologically abused. 200,000 children in Indian day schools, 20,000 children forcibly taken from their families and placed in fostership or adoption in the 60s scoop. And as you said, not just in Canada, but around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of forced sterilizations. So we're talking upwards of 400,000, 500,000 families that were directly affected, meaning the people you're talking about were in those situations. But then, of course, I mean, you just talked about your sister being in a hotel with her. I mean, there's kids, there's brothers, there's sisters, there's all the people who are connected to people who directly experience trauma. So obviously the number becomes much larger with devastating multi-generational impacts. And so just taking a step back to where we started, it's no surprise that with all of this, you would have people who, we refer to as silent speakers, right?
Right.
This context really kind of gives a deep understanding of how this could happen and why it happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I think is important for people is of course the truth part of this, and the understanding is important. But I can imagine either someone who's Indigenous who may have experienced this watching us, someone who maybe isn't Indigenous and is learning about this for the first time and watching us and asking, okay, this is awful. What can we do? What do we do going forward, right? And I think it's important that we talk a little bit about that. So the first most important thing for me, which I don't see happening, but I think needs to happen, is accountability. And I mean accountability for individuals, organizations, institutions, right? It's a tricky one because the government was and is complicit in this. So how does the government sort of, monitor itself and punish itself? That's a very difficult one, but it needs to happen. Without question, the church needs to be held accountable. And then the other thing is, if we're talking about the last school closing in 1997, there are no doubt people alive today who perpetrated these crimes walking free.
Right.
And that can't happen. I'm sorry. But, in any other situation in history you've looked at where genocide has been committed, there's accountability at the end. And that needs to happen. And again, I don't personally know what I can do. I mean, I think in some way what we're doing is just getting the word out to our podcast. But there's people listening who have the ability to influence the path of this accountability. It's extremely important. What people can do on an individual level. So there's a term that I know is used by a lot of people now, which is Anishinaabemowin. So maybe can you just talk a little bit about that term and what it might mean for people?
Minno. When you see the word minno, it's something good. Minno. Minnagish good. Minnoate. Minna. Minabemowin is the art of living well, the art of a good life, the way to a good life. Minabemowin.
And so if I understand this correctly, and I'm not the authority to talk about this, but all I can do is go by ways it's been explained to me, is it's even starting small. It's looking at food sovereignty and what you put in your body. It's land sovereignty, and reclaiming your relationship with the land. It's relationships with other people, and it's having a good moral compass. But I believe there's also a lot more to it that I don't fully understand. But it's I think the essence of it is about reclaiming identity and reclaiming a sense of self. Despite these things that have happened in the past. And this is something that I think one of the important aspects of it is that it can't be done alone, or let's say it doesn't need to be done alone. So other people who have this same idea can support each other. And I think that's where some of the power of this idea comes from.
Right.
Is there anything else that should be mentioned about that as far as you're aware, or?
No, I think you've hit it right on the head.
Okay. Okay, and then there's also land reclamation, which I think is a really important topic that sometimes people don't want to talk about, but it should be talked about. That it's, again, a travesty that the current sort of state of reservations are these relatively small, disconnected parcels of land that are sort of scattered around that aren't really designed to allow for that traditional lifestyle. And finding ways to open that up and get land back to go back to the original lifestyle. Language reclamation. So this is one that's near and dear to my heart. I'm just fundamentally interested in language and the power of language and the connection with culture. So we're obviously talking about the Osawamick Gittiganing that the Bev is building. There's our podcast, and there's a lot of other stuff. I mean, actually, there's a ton of stuff you're doing, I know. But a lot of things that are kind of going on in the community to get the language revitalized and back, in the community. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is that we've talked about some hard-hitting topics here. I definitely am not a professional in healthcare or psychology or anything like that. But I am aware that these things can be triggering for people. So again, if you're Indigenous or if you're not, what we're going to do this time is in the description and in the comments, put a long list of mental health resources that people can reach out to, phone numbers, websites, email addresses, because there actually is quite a lot out there that can provide support. You're not in this alone. And leverage these for mental health. So on that note, and particularly on the language reclamation, shall we do some Anishinaabemowin?
Yes, let's move on.
Okay, all right, awesome. So what we're going to do is start with my last message to Bev. So I'm just going to pull that up here, and I'm going to play it and see how I did. Ani Bev, Anishnagege. Anishinagewi enkamagak ode Osawamick Gittiganing. Taga bi abeje nindawen mizinateze jigansag. Nahau, Bama.
Ooh.
So how did I do?
You did 99.8. Not 9. 99.8.
Awesome. So the main thing is hopefully Bev understood me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she did.
And so what we have here is a really cool video. So the last episode we were looking at my trip up there at the opening of the Osawamick Gittiganing. And then this is a video a Bev made of the work that's currently going on to build it out. So I'm going to play it in yellow highlight for if you want to follow along on the Anishinaabemowin on the text on the screen. The yellow is where Doug, who's with Bev, working in the building, when he speaks, it's the yellow pieces.
I especially like this how you captured that barn in the back over there at the window. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit play, and then we can talk about what she says.
아니, 있으신다는 거야. 마법만 삐마버니, 메고니. 아니, 애나 긴덕레스. وابغنا جاي ما بدنا ندغلي وابغن شندا دسان جبو شكي جاب كيسغن نيتو ناشندا تيباكو جاب كيسغن شكي ما بشندا انكيد وي تادش من دوغون بيشك نيشي من داوني واسموين شاب كيسغن من دیگه کمیتاسون شکایینگی شدون کنگود مگیشرک مثل اوادن کیان شنده ما باشکه من پی نبودشت مارشاشن کاسا صد بریگه بابن جبا نه با ما مینو
So before we dig into this, I just want to say I love listening to Bev speak. She sometimes has this sort of almost like singing quality when you can tell she's kind of in a good mood and happy, which is really, it just makes me smile and like feel good. So let's start. So we start with Ani.
Ani mi sajinda nungo yaang. Yaang. And that says this, and so this is where we are at today. Yaang.
Okay, so and to dig into that a little bit, so the misa, the mi, basically is sort of the enso, and then jinda is here. Nongo is now, I guess, or at this moment.
At this point in time.
This point in time, and then the yaang is basically where we like to be or where we are, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maba mumpi, maba ni megwa ni. So she's thinking in her head what she's going to say. So maba mumpi. So and this person here, and this person right now he's
Okay, so and then we've looked at this before about the inanimate and animate. So maba is the animate, and then manda is inanimate.
Right.
So if she was talking about an object, she would say manda, but because she says maba, we know she's talking about a person.
Right.
And then mampi is here.
And
then she says maba ni'i, which is sort of the filler word. And then migwa is right now.
Yes.
Ni'i, okay.
All right. Ani Gien Inuktitut Douglas. So she's asking him a question. What is it that you're doing, Douglas?
So a question. So Ani, what is the Gien there?
Gien is just a reinforcer to say, what is it?
Okay.
Ani Gien, like what? Ani Gien.
Okay. And then Enokian is, we said is what are you doing? But just to be clear, that Noki is also used to mean work, right?
Right. So what is it that you're working on?
You're working on, right? And then
right.
Okay.
And then Douglas answers, "Ndo wabaganege." I am plastering.
So Indo is the I, right?
Yes.
I, and then wabiganage. So what about wabiganage? Is there anything in that word that gives it clues to its meaning?
Wabagan is the plaster, the clay. Clay is wabagan. So we call that same thing that he's doing as a clay-like substance.
Oh, plaster. Of course. Okay. So a couple of things actually. This is interesting. I didn't realize this. You mention it now. So in there is the igan, which is basically for anything that's like used for something or a tool,
right?
For something, right? And the wub. I want to ask you about the wabe actually, or the wub. But then the gay at the end is the doing. So I think we talked about like gigongke is fishing, or right. So when you add that k at the end of a word, it's like the act of doing the
right.
Thing. Yeah. Okay. So what is the wub? What would that mean? Plaster. Wabigan.
Wabigan. It would be the color of it.
Oh, the white.
Yeah, the white, the grayish white color.
Of course. So it's like the white tool, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? The white substance.
White substance. Okay. Awesome. Cool. See, this is why Anishinaabemowin was fun. Okay, and then.
And then, so Bev repeats, Wabaganege Gien Maba. Gien. Again, same word, Gien, Anish Gien, and Nokian. So Wabaganege Gien Maba. So she's repeating what Dougley had just said to her.
Okay. And by the way, I love the Dougley. That's such a nice sort of fun way to say Douglas. Okay. And then Wabagan Jinda Dasan.
Wabagan Jinda Dasan, because the plaster part is an animate object. It's an animate form of word. So we need to use the sun. You can't say the tune. The tune would be inanimate. I mean, the tune would be inanimate. In this case, so he's working with the animate clay portion, the animate plaster portion
Mhm.
of that.
And
So
sorry,
that's
what
where
is
she uses the sun.
and what is dasan?
The sun means is putting, the sun,
Okay,
placing.
okay. And then you said that if it was inanimate, it would be daton.
Yes, it would be the tun.
Okay, okay. And then
And then Jibwa shki before Jibwa
Mhm.
shkigjapkizgan nituna jinda. We are putting a new stove here. Shkigjapkizgan. Nituna means we are putting. Nituna.
Okay, got it. So we have the dasan, which is what we just said, and then this is the inanimate form of that same word.
Right, right.
Right. Okay, so jibwa, as we said, is before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's before in time.
Right.
So similar to like jinagwa.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the shke we've seen a lot, which often means new, right?
Something new, right.
Right. And then what about the gijab kizigan? So we see the igan at the end, which means it's a tool for something. But the gijabke, what does that mean?
Gija, something hot, something, a tool that is used to make heat.
Oh.
Gijapkide.
Okay, so basically the yeah, okay, so the thing or the tool that heats up.
Right,
New,
right.
Okay, netona jinda. Okay, and then jibakwe gijab kizigan.
Jibakwe Gjapkizgan. So this is where Dougley says to her, it's going to be a cooking stove. Jibakwe Gjapkizgan.
Okay, all right, so we're going to come across jibakwe today, and then she repeats that, and then
She
she
repeats
says,
the word Jibakwe Gjapkizgan.
Mhm.
Shka'i, and then Dougley says the word Shka'i, which means new.
New one.
Shka'i.
Okay, and then misa maba.
Jinda Inuktitut. Misamaba, Jinda Inuktitut.
Mhm.
So this is what he is doing here.
Okay, so this is again Bev saying, so she's saying misa and so, maba is him, he, jinda here, and inokid, what he's doing. Or
What he's working on, yes.
Working on. Okay, and then?
We'ipta dash.
Mhm.
We'ipta dash. We'ip comes from the word to hurry. So we'ipta means he is hurrying at this time. We'ipta dash.
I see. So when you sometimes see wewe at a word, does that mean something that's kind of happening quickly or hurrying?
Yes.
Okay. I just got a clue for one of the words we're going to look at in a bit,
All right.
which was the microwave oven.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Manda we go on with Beijing.
Mhm.
Manda we go on with Beijing. And so there is this one here. Manda we go on with Beijing.
Okay, so the manda, this is now the inanimate of this.
Right.
And then we go, and then anue, basic is one. And the anue is?
Anue refers to this item here.
Okay.
Manda we go anue.
Okay, and this one. Okay, and then the ish?
Ni ish ge manda awan. Ni. And then she's alluding to the fact that this is ni ge manda awan.
Okay, so nei or neish, there's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Coming from ni dash. Ni
dash. Okay, and then manda this and awan nei. Okay, and then wasmoin?
Wasmoin would be the electricity. Wasmoin. Oh, wasmoin gjapkizgan, an electric stove.
Got it. Okay, and then manda gei?
Manda gei mkomitaswin. Manda gei, and then she's pointing to that refrigerator. Manda gei mkomitaswin.
Okay, so manda again, inanimate. This gei is this one. Mikomi taswin is refrigerator. So I know that taswin is like a drawer or a cupboard, right?
Right.
Typically, and then mikomi.
Makom was the ice. So in the olden days, we made our refrigerators with blocks of ice in the cupboard. Makom taswin.
Oh, okay. So mikom just means ice.
Yeah.
So an ice cupboard, basically.
An ice cupboard.
Got it. Okay. And then shkai.
Shkai ngigishpenadun. I bought a new one.
Okay. So again, the shkai, the new. And then
Uh-huh.
ingi is the I past tense.
Past tense.
And then gishpenadon is
I bought.
bought.
Purchased.
Purchased. Okay. And then ekongo anime gishigak. I know what that means. But...
Yeah. Ekungonamegishgak would be a week ago. A week Sunday ago. Nungunamegishgak.
Okay. So echo, what is echo again?
Echo would be from this point to that point.
Okay.
Echo.
And then ngo is one, right?
One.
One. And then anime gishigak is
the Sunday before.
Sunday before. And we learned before. Okay, so we learned before that anime is basically prayer or pray. And gishigak is day. So prayer day, Sunday. Okay. All right. And then misa wa.
Oh, put it in the fridge. Okay. Miigwech. All right. Miigwech. Sorry.
No worries. So misa wa.
Where are we here?
Misa wa nankiang jinda.
Oh, misa wa nankiang jinda. Yes, misa wa nankiang jinda. Misa, and so it is. Wa, future tense. Nanki is the action that they're going to be doing here.
Okay. Okay, and so this is what we're going to be doing here. Okay, and then mabash gei.
Mabash gei. So and she's mabadash gei. Mabash gei. Mampi nebuachwed, the one visiting.
Okay, all right. So this is like coming full circle. Okay, this is wild. Okay, so a couple of things. So the mabash, as you're saying, is a contraction of mabadash.
Right.
And so this person.
Yes.
And then gei mampi here. And then nebuachwed. Now, I remember in our pilot episode, I don't know if you remember this, but you were talking about nebois basically meaning visit because you're imparting wisdom on someone.
Right.
Right? Which is the nebois part. Okay. All right. And then Marsha Jinkazo.
Right. Marsha Jinkazo. Her name is Marsha.
Okay. Jinkazo is her name, or she's called. And then Sudbury Gei.
Sudbury Gei Maba Njiba. This person comes from Sudbury.
Okay.
Though she's originally from Wiki, she's a niece. She's a niece of Bev.
Okay. Okay. And then so Njiba is she comes from, right?
Right.
Okay. And then Nahaobama Minwa. So well then.
Until next time. Bama Minwa.
Okay, awesome. Let's listen to that once again.
아니, 미쓰신다는 거야. 마법만 마법니, 메고니. 아니, 애나 긴다글레스. 워브게나게 이게 마법 난다글리. 워브건 준다더산. 저거 шкек жапкесган нито нашында. Тибаккой жапкесган. Шкай. Мабышында эннакит. Wait, others. Man do on the basic. Ni shame and down ni osmoin. Shopkesgan. Man de komitaswin. Skying Isadore. Kun god megisrok. Mr. Owadan Kiangshunda. Mabashke be nebochet. Marsha in casa. Sudbury Babanjaba. Nah, Bamamino.
Okay, awesome. So what we're going to do now is move to our last section, fun with words. And we're going to talk about Anishinaabemowin with everything to do with the home. So we're going to start with the word endang. So I'm going to, I think what we'll do is I'll have you just read out the words and then we can talk about what they mean.
Yeah. Okay, so my first word is endang. Endang refers to the place where living is done. So in this case, it makes it the home. Endang, place where the living is done. Endang.
Okay. Is there anything in that word that like I've seen, for instance, DAA? Does that mean
Mhm.
that means to live, right?
Right. That would be the same word.
And so is that N the same as enje?
Enje, yeah, that would be part of that. Yeah, enje. You can say enje dong. This would be the short form endang.
Got it. Got it. Okay, got it. So da is to live.
Mm-hmm.
The dang and G makes it the locative, like
Make
at
it
that
a
location,
locative, right?
right? And then the N at the beginning is the place where it happens, sort of, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
en jidang. Okay, got it. Okay.
And then this next word, wigwam and wigwaman, just identifies the house itself, not the home, the house.
And we
Wigwam.
recently or previously looked at this word and broke it down as a combination of wigwas and gua, I think.
Yes, wigwas coming from birch bark.
hmm Okay. And then gua, I think, was to do with sleeping, right? The place
Yeah, guam, menangguam, do menangguam, I'm sleeping.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with the Enje Madbing.
All right, so this one, engine madbing, means the place where sitting is done. In this case, the living room. Engine madbing.
Okay, so I have a question. How so NG is the same as the endang on the previous one. The sitting, where is sitting in that word, namadibing?
Namadbe. Namadbe means he or she is sitting.
Okay,
Namadbe. The ing makes it the locative.
got it. So again, the place where you would sit.
Right.
Okay, all right, and then
And then asmatig makes it the wall. Asmatig, asmatigun.
okay, and what is in that word, asmatic? I see one thing I think I recognize in the word.
Oh, osme. Osme would be the wall. Osme, meaning the point where I don't know how to explain that. Osme. Osme, meaning that location where that blank flat surface is.
Mhm.
Osme.
But is tig from wood or tree?
Osmatig would be with the wood, yes.
Right. Okay. And then we have
Gidibisug. Gidibisug would be the floor on top of you. So in this case, this part here is your ceiling. Gidibisug. Coming from gidje. Gidje on top of.
okay. And what about so gije, and then what about the sug or bisug at the end?
Coming from the word floor. Michisug.
Okay. And interestingly, the next
And,
word is
and the next word is michisug, which is the floor, which is the flat plain surface of the floor. Michisug.
okay. Sorry, can we just do that again? So michisug is the floor.
The flat plain surface.
Surface
Chi. Chi.
is the flat plane. Okay.
Flat plane, yes. Mchi. If I said to you, mchishin,
Mhm.
mchishin, that would be someone laying naked.
Okay.
Chishin. So mchisug, it's a flat plane level of that floor.
Okay. And then can you remind me for the ceiling, how do you say above?
Gidibisug. Gije. Gije.
Gije. Okay.
Gije.
Gije. Okay. And then that shortens to gidibisug for ceiling. Okay, got it.
Squandem. Squandem and squandeman. I don't know what that word means.
Okay.
But I
So
know it's a door.
okay, so I have a question on that because at the beginning we have the shkwa, which often is young or new or something, and I'm wondering if it could also mean something like being at the front or like the entrance or something like that, or is that a bit of a
To me, it
stretch?
would be something in the back.
In the back?
Squang.
Oh, okay, okay. So in
Yeah.
any case, so shkwandem and then shkwandeman,
Right. Squandem and squandeman.
okay, and then
Quandwagan. Quandwa. It's the elevation of the upper level. Quandwagan.
okay. So can we break that word down a little bit?
Sure. So if I said Kwandwen, Kwandwen, that would mean telling you go up the stairs. Kwandwen. If I said Nisandwen, I would be telling you to go down the stairs. Nisandwen.
Okay, so in this case, the gun or the igun at the end is that same thing we've seen about the tool. So this is the,
Right,
the
right.
tool for going up the level.
Right. Yeah, Kwandwagan.
Got it. Okay.
Knocknegan. Knocknegan would be the carpet, the rug. Knocknegan. Again, I wouldn't know where that word derived from unless we try and break it up. Knocknegan. Knockneganon. Oh, the Knocknegan would be the actual part it is made from, as in the material, the
like the textile.
Yeah, the textile.
Okay, is Negan?
Negan or Jigan would be a sheet. If I said Nbegnegan, Nbegnegan would be a bed sheet. Dopwinigan would be a tablecloth. So Knocknegan would be what's on that floor.
Okay, so what does the nake mean in that case?
Yeah, I don't know what the nake would mean though.
Okay, all right. Well, one thing actually I realized we should have been doing a long time ago is when we come to these, if you're watching and you happen to know what the nake is, put it in the comments down below.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
we'd love to know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I'm a fluent speaker, but I don't know everything.
Yeah, no, of course. Okay, and then
here we have Dopois. Dopois for a coffee table. Anything that is small. We call it os, is, es, or uns. So in this case, it's a dopois, which is the word for dopwin is a table, and dopois makes it a small table.
A little
dopois.
Okay. And is there anything in dopwin that reveals?
Dopwin is an item that is used to place stuff on.
Okay.
Pakweshmowin. Pakweshmowinan. Pillows. Pakweshmowin. Pakweshmowin coming from what it is that you're putting your head on. The pakweshman. Okay.
I'm just curious.
I wonder if that has any relation with a roof, because the word pakwan is a roof. Pakwan. Pakweshmowin.
Okay.
Here we have the word abdaku. Abdaku. Abdaku means something that is straight, a long item. Abdaku. So abdaku pabwin is a long chair.
Okay, and so pubwin or pubwinan is chair or chairs, right?
Right.
Now, I was just curious, I thought I remember hearing that in pubwin that the pub part has to do with sitting down. Is that right?
Yeah, ndu pabin means I'm using it to put my butt on. Ndu pabin.
Okay. Okay, and then that's the next one. Pubwin and pubwinan.
Yeah, pubwin and pubwinan. Pubbe is something that you use with your butt.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, and then the last one on here is the Waskano.
Waskunenjagan. Waskunenjagan. Waskune is that light. Waskune.
Okay, and then of course the igan is the tool to provide the light.
Yes.
Right, the lights. Okay, so that's the living room.
You live in a fancy home. Look at these.
I wish. I wish. Okay, so next one.
All right, next one is Jibakwe Gamig. The Gamig makes it the building, the room. Jibakwe Gamig. Actually, thinking now, maybe it should be called Jibakwe Ajkinagan, meaning it's the room, because it's not a building. The word Gamig makes it a building, but in this case, it's the kitchen building. I guess I don't know.
Got it. But it's pretty common that people would say Jibakwe Gamig, right? For a
right,
kitchen.
Jibakwe Gamig. Yeah, okay. But technically, it's not a kitchen building.
Right. Okay. And then we actually had this in Beverly's video. This next one.
Yep. Here we have the word again, makomitaswin. Makomi meaning the ice cupboard.
Okay. And then interestingly, that's for refrigerator. And then you were saying that for freezer, it's the same.
Freezer is the same. Yes, makomitaswin.
Okay. Okay. And so this now is the one that I mentioned in the early one.
Right. Wewe bizekwe zagan. Wewe comes from the word to hurry. Wewe. If I said to you, Paul, wewe ptan, means Paul, hurry up. Wewe ptan. So wewe bizekwe comes from the word jiba kwe. Wewe bizekwe coming from hurry, the hurry heating up thing.
And then igan, of course, is the tool to do
Right.
it. So it's the oven that cooks things really quickly.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
The ze minizekwe. Minizekwe. Wewe bizekwe zagan.
Okay.
Gijap kizagan. Gijap kizagan. Coming from gijide, the hot object. Gijap kide, the hot tool that helps cook.
Okay.
Bish enje zagjijwung. The faucet where the water pours out. Bish enje the location. Zagije. Zagije means it's flowing out. Zagjijwung.
Okay. And then bish, of course, is water.
Bish is water, right?
Got it. Okay. And then the ng at the end means it's the locative. It's the place where that happens.
Right.
Okay. And then?
Enje gzibig naguneng. Same thing. Location. Enje, the location of. Gzibi is the place where washing is done. The sink. Enje gzibig nagun. Nagun, the plates where you wash your plates.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
Oh, I see the light bulb that lit up in your eyes.
Okay. And then we have Mizinchigan.
Where are we here? Oh, Mizinchigan. Yes, picture. Mizinchigan. The mizinade meaning the picture that is shown. Mizinchigan.
Okay. So sorry, mizinade, what does that mean exactly?
Mizinade means it is pictured, it is shown.
Okay. Okay, and the last one.
Taswin is a cupboard, a shelf, a flat platform of any part that you're using to put stuff on. Taswin.
Okay. Okay, so that in this case, we're talking about the counter.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's go to, we're still in the kitchen. So the Jibakwe Gamagon.
Jibakwe Gamagun is the kitchens.
Yeah.
Gjapkizagan again is a stove.
Okay. So stove and oven, is that the same?
Yeah.
Word? Okay. Got it. Okay.
Well, you can make a word to call it the actual oven, but we just say Gjapkizagan.
Okay. All right. And then we have
Jishib kick.
Okay.
Kick.
So
this one comes from the spout and the arm, that because it's the shape of a duck.
Yeah, I was going to say this is one of my favorite words in Anishinaabemowin. I love just the imagery of that. So this literally, so jishib means duck, right?
Jishibe means duck, yes.
And then kek is pot, so it's like
Kek
a duck.
is the pot, yes.
A duck pot, basically.
A duck pot.
That's cool. Okay, and then
here we have a kick, which is a pot. Kick.
And is it the case? I think I've sometimes heard people say jibakwe kick.
Jibakwe kick. This would make it a cooking pot. Yes.
Cooking pot, right? Okay.
A pail could be a kick.
Oh, okay. So basically, any type of container that you're using to put stuff.
Yeah.
In? Okay. Okay. So, and we're now in Njimbam.
Yeah, you live in a fancy house there. Look at this.
I wish.
Engine bong. The location where sleeping is done.
Okay, so enje is location, and imba is to sleep, And then
The
the N
NG makes it the locative.
locative again. Okay. All right.
Mbagan,
Mm-hmm.
the tool where sleeping is done.
Oh, of course. It's funny how when we're doing this, all of a sudden it's like X-ray. It all becomes so clear. Okay, that's cool. Okay. And then
Mbegnigin. Mbegnigin would be the sheet that is on the bed.
right
Negan, coming from the first word that we had here for Nakanigan, for the
for
rug or carpet.
rugged
In
carpet.
this case, it's the bed sheet.
So the Negan. What about the imbege? What is
Mbe comes from the word to sleep.
imba?
Mbe.
Okay.
Yeah,
got
from
it,
ba. Mbe.
got it. Okay.
Same word that we had earlier, wasquinenjagan, the light.
Okay. So light or lamp.
Light or lamp, yep.
Right.
Get to Gadegin. This would be a plant of any sort, any kind of plant. Get to Gadegin. In this case, these are plants. Get to Gadeg would be one. Get
Okay.
to Gadeg. Get to Gadegin is the plural form.
Okay. And then we also have the Osawamick Giteganing. Is that the same word?
Yeah, that would be the garden, the
Garden.
Osawamick field or garden.
Mhm. Okay.
Wasechigan, window. Wase. Wase means the shiny see-through part. Waseage. Wase.
Okay. And then of course the igan at the end. So it's
The tool.
Yeah. And this has the same, so wasedigan and then waskonenjigan, that same wase to do with
Yeah.
like light or
Yeah, the light passing through.
okay.
Here we have wabemowin. Wabe, you're seeing. Wabemowin, the object that you can see through. I mean, to see yourself.
Okay. Okay. Now I just have a question. I think in the living room, I'm trying to remember, was it how do you say pillow again?
Pakweshmowin.
Pakweshmoin. And then here we have Wabmoin. And I know that Moin, like it's Anishinaabemowin or Bimadizawin, is like the art of. So I'm just
Yes.
wondering, is that what this is as well? The same Moin?
Yes, this would be the art of seeing.
Art of seeing. Okay. Okay.
Gwine comes from the word clothing.
Mhm.
Gwine taswin. Gwine. But the word gwinan just really literally translates, it means cover it. Gwinan. So in other words, people are telling you to cover your body. So we call those gwinan, meaning the objects that cover your body. Gwinan, which hence become clothing.
Okay. So a couple of things here then. So first we see Taswin, which is the same thing we saw for counter.
Right.
But then for this covering, so Gwine or Gwinan is clothes. But is there, if you just were to use the cover part, like can you use it in some other sentence which is not to do with clothes? Like you were saying, it just means to cover something.
Oh yeah, if I was to say, Paul, Gwinan away. So I'd give you a sheet to cover that.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're going to stay in the bedroom, the engine bung, and we're going to look at.
Engine bong, not enjabong.
Oh, sorry, engine bung. Okay.
Right. Gwinan, there's that thing again, Gwinan, meaning clothing.
Mhm.
Enje, location, gujigadeg. Gudun comes from the word to hang.
Okay.
Enje gujigadeg is the location where clothes are hung.
Got it. Okay. And then this is the same word we were looking at
Gwinan, yes.
for clothes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the bathroom.
Gzibi gjegamig. Gzibi gjegamig.
Okay.
Bathroom. Gzibi gje is the art of cleaning yourself. Gzibi gje.
Okay. And we had, I think, for the sink, right, in the kitchen,
Gizinji nagan.
the same one, right?
Gzi nagane and gzi naganeng, yes.
Okay. All right. And then we have.
And now we have the mizi nagan. That's the action that takes place in that toilet bowl.
Mhm.
Mizi nagan.
So the mizi is the poop, basically.
Yes, mizi means he or she is pooping.
And then nagan is like a dish or a plate.
In this case, it's the bowl.
Bowl. Okay, got it. It's the poop bowl. Okay.
Next, we have the Enjigizinjing,
Mhm.
place where hand washing is done. Enjigizinjing.
Okay. Oh, in G.
Ninj, yeah, Enjigizininjing.
Okay, okay. Sorry, I just need to digest that one for a minute. That again, it's amazing when like you look at the word and you just pass by, and then when I'm with you, it's like, oh, now I see all the different pieces of the word. So cool. Okay.
That's why I'm the successful teacher. No, just kidding.
No, listen, you are a very successful teacher, trust me. Okay, next one.
Gizibi gje makak. Makak is the box.
Mhm.
Gizibi gje is the action that where you're bathing. So
Got it.
the bathing box.
Okay. And then we have above.
And then you have the gizin de megan. Gizin de megan would be the tool that you use to wipe your bum. Die. Die. Gzi die megan.
So die is the bum.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Gizingwe, the one you're washing, nigin, the cloth that you're using to wipe your body. Gizingwe
Okay.
nigin.
So that's the third time we've seen Negan.
Yes, yeah, there we go. Yes.
So we had it for the carpet, for the sheets, and then now for the towel.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
And then we have gizibi gnigas. Again, a lot of these will begin with gizi because you're using them to wash, to clean. So
Mhm.
gizibi gnigas would be the little bar of soap. Ons. Remember I said ons, small.
Yeah.
And gizibi gnigan would be just a plain shampoo. Gizibi gnigan.
Okay. So the tool to do the washing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, this is the last one. So now we're in the enjewisening.
Right. Enjewisening, place where eating is done. The dining room.
So the
Enjewisening.
enje is the location or the place. Wisene is to eat.
Yep.
Right? And then wisening, the location of the eating. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Then we have
Noggin is a plate. Noggin, nogginan, plates. Buske noggin. Buske comes from that dip that it has. Buske. Buske noggin.
So what other situations would you use bosque just to understand like the
If I said buska enje buskaag, where that ditch is. Enje buskaag.
okay.
Bidakajigan. Bidakajigan. Coming from your poking. Bidakage. Bidakajigan. Fork.
So bitakage is to poke.
Yeah. Bidakage.
Okay. And then the igan, of course, is the tool.
If I said ngibidakagu nikang. Ngibidakagu. I got a needle in my arm. Ngibidakagu. I got poked in my arm.
Okay.
Mukman, knife. Mukman.
Okay. Is there anything in that word? Mokman?
Mukman. Yeah, I don't know where that word would have derived from. Mukman.
Nothing to do with like cutting or
Mm,
No.
Muk. Yeah, I don't know.
okay. All right. And then
Mkwan, same thing. I don't know where that would have derived from. Mkwan. I just know that they are
okay.
spoon, fork, and knife.
Okay. So mkwan is spoon, mkwanan. And then we have
Nitas. Nitas is the thing that you use to carry, transport things in. Nitas.
so I wanted to actually ask, is in this case, is that at all related to taswin or is that a separate word?
Yeah, you're right. Nitas win. It could also be a nitas win. We just
Okay.
removed the win out.
Okay.
We can say nitas win. It's a thing that you're transporting something in. In this case, the liquid.
Okay. And then
Jomenaabu nitas. Jomenaabu makes it the wine, the grape. The grape juice.
Right. So the Julmin is the grape,
Uh-huh.
right? And then Abo is the liquid, I guess.
Abo is the liquid?
And then Nitas just makes it the glass.
Yeah.
Okay. Isadore, this was extremely fun, as always. We are at the end of the episode. One thing, actually, in case people are still with us, if there's any topics you'd like us to cover, please leave those in the comments below. Otherwise, as we mentioned up front, please subscribe, please like, please share this, and we hope that you enjoy it. And Isadore, I very much look forward to the next one with you.
Ahaw.
Now, Bama.
Ahaw, Bamapi.
If you enjoyed this video and think that others should see it, please hit the like button below. All likes help us get seen by others. And of course, be sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all new episodes. Make sure to turn notifications on so that you will know when we upload a new episode. Kuchi miigwech.